Matrix is proud to be the exclusive sponsor of Shorts with Liz Clark. With over 20 years as a dedicated supporter of the fitness industry, we're thrilled to continue a partnership geared towards success for all those who believe in better.
Well, hello. It's so good to see everybody. Thanks for joining my latest Shorts with Liz. Today will surely be an exciting one as we are going to explore the merger of SE Brands with Orange Theory Fitness, which ultimately has created Purpose Brands, and the bringing on of Tom Leverton to run the whole show. We're going to discuss what this new portfolio means to both members and investors, and maybe some of the expected changes that are on the horizon and how that might impact franchises and members as well. We'll also talk about the merger model and if it could be a blueprint for others in the industry, or maybe in some instances where it might not be applicable. So we got a lot to cover, and let's go ahead and get started. So I am pleased to introduce these three amazing pioneers and legends in this industry, and a new one on the horizon. So first, I'm going to introduce Tom Leverton, new CEO of Purpose Brands. Welcome, Tom. Dave Long, the co-founder and co-chair of Orange Theory Fitness, and now on Purpose Brands board. And Chuck Runyon, also co-founder of SE Brands and co-chair of Purpose Brands. So welcome, gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Liz. Good to be here.
Thanks, Liz.
Okay. So listen, let's go ahead and jump in here. And for those that might not be aware, maybe even living under a rock, the Purpose Brands is now the umbrella company of over 6 million members in 7,000 sites in over 50 countries. Its brands include, if you're not familiar, Anytime Fitness, Orange Theory Fitness, which we just discussed, Waxing in the City, Base Camp Fitness, Summit Fitness, The Bar Method, Stronger Nutrition, Healthy Contributions, and Provisional Security. So they cover a lot of ground, and I think it's evidence of all of these brands coming together, of what tremendous innovators and forward-thinking leaders we have in this space. So let's just start at the top. And I'm going to throw all these kind of questions out, and I'm going to let you decide who wants to take the first stab at it. But the first one is, when was it originally thought to decide to merge SE and Orange Theory? Let's go back to that.
I can't remember the specific day, but, Dave Long and I have known each other for years. We care deeply about the success of the industry, always collaborating to promote and protect. And we just have a shared purpose to bring health services and wellness to people around the world. So we've known each other for years. We've seen each other at events. Every now and then we joke about, joining forces. But it probably got a bit more serious, probably about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we started to have some of these conversations, because if you look at our core capabilities as a franchise company and as a member-driven company, there's just an overlap. And so we're like, geez, if we could, really invest together to create these superpower type capabilities, we could bring better wellness services faster and deeper to more people around the world. So it's probably about a year and a half, 2 years ago, we kind of started talking about it.
That's really fun. And I see those conversations happening everywhere around me all the time. And you never really know when they're happening or where they're happening, but they are. And then when you see sort of the fruition of it come to be, it's pretty cool. So let's talk about what we think will be some of the advantages of really building this umbrella under the brand, and the advantages maybe for both members on the member side, and then also on the investor side, because I do think that there's a lot of potential bright spots on both of those. And I'll either maybe have Dave or Tom take a stab at that one.
I'll jump in first. You mentioned it earlier. We are now the largest health and wellness platform in the world. In addition to the 50 countries, for fun, we are on all 7 continents too. And that gives us, not the 7 continents, but that gives us a scale where we can deliver every possible tool to our franchisees, so then they can deliver the best health and wellness experience possible to the individual member. And when I talk about that, I'd really focus in on, with our scale, how we can deliver brand new and highly capable technology experiences, have the best systems, have the best services to the franchisees to make their jobs easier. From a data and analytics standpoint, all of the member data that we can have, we can draw insights and then supply that back to the franchisees, not just from the scale of Basecamp or Orange Theory, but across the entire family of companies that we have. And it's all about enabling those franchisees to make their jobs easier so they can deliver that ultimate health and wellness experience to the end member.
And I don't know if Dave wants to add anything to that, but I have a question, and are you the only one in Antarctica? And maybe you don't want to mention if there are any competitors there, but you're the only one I'm aware of.
We are the only one. Yes.
I think so.
I love it. It's great. Any other thoughts there, Dave, on just the advantages for other, the members or investors that Tom really knocked it out of the park, but anything else?
There's such a purpose around providing amazing experiences and results for our members globally, and where we can have mind share and get quick wins and start to just deliver that across all the brands. And then you have just an incredible group of franchisees, and Tom talked about how we're going to be able to deliver more to them. And then, they have, they're scaling all across the world with multiple brands. And as you can imagine, many of them have an appetite to take on more than one brand. So that's something that obviously we're going to be looking at, across the portfolio. Great partners that have proven track records. And then what else can we deliver them from a second or even a third brand at some point?
And Liz, I'll just add to that, culturally, both of our organizations have always been stakeholder first, meaning we're constantly thinking about members and franchisees and employees. And if they are empowered, if they do well, if they are successful in reaching better health or better performance in their studios, or if we're winning the talent war with our employees, then ultimately shareholders will benefit. And so we really spend the vast majority of our time obsessing about members, franchisees, and employees. We don't talk that much about shareholders, because at the end of the day, shareholder success is a byproduct of stakeholder success.
Agree.
Oh, I love that. So when you speak specifically, what are some of the changes that you see on the horizon for some of these franchises and how they might be impacted? Obviously, we've talked a lot about the positives and potential upswing here. But yeah, what are some expected changes specifically that you might be able to speak to the franchises, to the members, and ultimately, the advantages and then let's dig into a little bit of that, and then I want to get your crystal ball on how long you think it's going to take.
Well, it depends on. I'll kick off, but I'll highlight three if you want kind of more specifics. First of all, let's talk about the online experience. And so you can sign up for Anytime Fitness online today. You can sign up for Orange Theory online today, and it's a fine experience. That is something that we can do. But when you think about how quickly technology is evolving, that's something where you need to stay on it every single day, every single month for what is the absolute best experience, not just from a sign-up standpoint, but even from a support standpoint. When you think about all of the advances in AI chatbots, everything that you can do to provide that within our individual brands, which will remain independent. So an Orange Theory member will not be distracted by Purpose brands, and an Anytime Fitness member will not be distracted. But we can have a common technology platform with AI capabilities, with better sign-up capabilities, build that platform, and then have the brands plug into it to make that experience, again, the ultimate best possible experience for that member. So that's just an example. That's something that we're actively working on right now with our web platform going live between Q2 and Q3. It'll be the foundation for everything going forward.
And so, Tom, on that point, would you say that you're embracing AI and leveraging it in some of this, or maybe not quite yet?
We're actively exploring is the way that I would say it. There are capabilities, and that is developing so quickly. We want to make sure that we are leading edge, if not bleeding edge.
Yep.
And then second, DL mentioned this, the opportunity to provide cross-brand opportunities to our franchisees. Just this morning, I had a communication with a franchisee that is actively engaged in Anytime Fitness, Waxing the City, and Orange Theory, all three of them. And so we can become that one-stop shop for franchisees that do have more broad capabilities. So actively happening right now, both domestically and internationally. And then the last thing I would say is from an overall support standpoint, again, for that frontline team member in the locations, what are the opportunities from a training standpoint, from an outreach standpoint? What are the best practices, not just within each specific brand, but across the entire globe that we have to, again, make that experience best possible? all three of those just examples of things in the works.
Yeah, and I guess I bet I would probably assume that you have a lot of best practices that you can learn from the franchise model that maybe isn't necessarily in health and fitness, right? There's other industries out there that are doing great job in franchising, and so there's probably so many learnings that we could be taking even from other industries, right?
Absolutely. Chuck, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say two other real life examples are, Orange Theory Fitness has led the entire industry and, putting consumer data at the heart of the experience, deep personalization, gamification, the ability to quantify performance after every workout, and it has led the industry. And so for SE Brands to harness some of that capability to bring that to our members and our franchisees faster is a game changer. And on the other side of that, SEB has really led the industry in international growth. I mean, over half the Anytime Fitnesses are located outside the US, and we can leverage our master franchisee partnerships. We have 18 groups around the world growing Anytime Fitness. Now, as Tom said, they get to grow more brands faster around the world. So those are just two different capabilities. We both get to, 1 + 1 = 3 type of approach where we can help grow Orange Theory faster around the world. They can also help us deliver a more personalized, quantified experience with consumer data at the heart of it.
And there's a good tactical example of that preceding these two companies coming together. We opened up our first bar method in Japan, and that was with an existing large-scale Anytime Fitness franchisee in Japan. So that opportunity to go across brands is, again, really exciting.
Oh, that's awesome. And the data is so important. And I know that there's ways that we're from an advocacy standpoint, and we'll talk about advocacy in a little bit, but ways that we can leverage like what it really means to track your progress and to be motivated by the data and the stats. And even, I've been having lots of conversations with people in the wearable space and what that means to almost continue the model that you create in-house in your studio to, for the other 23 hours of the day and what that means. So it's really critical, I think, for telling the story of how important of an industry we are and how we're really changing lives and making people healthier.
And as you know, how valuable is that data, and what's it going to mean to the medical community, other brands, right, insurance industry, et cetera. So I think that's the next phase of opportunity.
Yeah, and I'll just say on the international front, a little selfless plug here for the HFA, is we're even exploring having presence in other parts of the world as well. So we already are very active in Brazil, we're active in China, but we're about to announce some great things we're doing in Mexico, some things that we'll be doing in Dubai, and then Europe. So a lot going on in our space internationally. So a lot of opportunity for us to continue to support the brand internationally as it continues to grow, which is super fun. So let me then ask. So it's great to hear what the bar in Japan, and that's a good start. That's a great one story. But what is your crystal ball forecasting for sort of how long you feel like all of this integration will take? Maybe it's already, maybe the horse has already left the barn and your guys are off to the races. But can you give us a little insight as to the timing on how we think all this integration and maybe ultimately then when we can see it, when we can see exactly what you said, a bar being integrated within Anytime?
So first of all, we're not necessarily integrating a bar method with Anytime Fitness. It's one franchisee, just to be super clear on that. But the way to think about it is in maybe 3 buckets from an integration standpoint. From a technology standpoint, where again, we are going to be able to deliver a lot of new tools to the franchisees. That is going to be a rollout of different products and services to the franchisees over the next really about 18 months. That's when we're building our foundation, rolling out different tools on top of it. The ability to cross-sell, bucket number 2, to franchisees, the different experiences right now. We are bringing those experiences right now. Like Chuck said, Anytime Fitness and SEB really have had a tremendous strength internationally, which means we have a lot of white space for Orange Theory. And as we have reached out to our existing SEB franchisees, we've seen a lot of interest in Orange Theory. We're actively developing new prototypes for different regions in the world, and that is underway, again, right now. And then lastly, and I'll always come back to this, the training and the best practice sharing across the different locations. That's where we're trying to right now reach out to our various franchise advisory committees, try to get those best practices, figure out where we can do the best sharing. Some things like grassroots marketing some of our brands are very strong in, some of our brands focus more on the digital side. And so that best practice, I think we'll be able to roll out, call it over the next 6 to 8 months.
I love that. I feel like maybe we need to title this episode Right Now, because I mean you are in it right now, and what a cool thing for us to be able to peer into. So thanks. So this really is a great model for, I think, for the Purpose Brands business. Do you think that this is a model for others in our space? And maybe yes or maybe no. I'd love your reactions on if you think this is something that again, we've got a lot of brands in this space, and a lot of innovators, a lot of creative thinkers, and so I'd love your thoughts on that.
I'll say that mergers and acquisitions can be quite tricky. So I don't think this is a natural fit.
By the gut type of guys. Oh, sorry. Before we did the actual merger, we went through all the things we're talking about with you today. We went through in a lot of detail, and things sound good on paper, but got teams together and talked through like how is it really going to work, because merger also comes with disruption and you can be distracted. And so we needed to make sure that we were really focused, that all the brands were continuing to execute and grow, while all this new integration and all the things we're talking about are all new. It's all new and unique work to do on top of running the brands. And so I think being really thoughtful around that is critical. And we've handed that to Tom now, and he balances that with all the moving forward stuff. So I think when you talk about others that emulate it, there's a lot to unpack to make sure that it's done right. That you have the foundational capabilities. If you merge a few brands together that don't have foundational capabilities, you could actually go backwards. And so I think we wanted to make sure that was kind of number one. We did not want that to happen with this, and I think we've been pretty successful making sure that it didn't. But it's a huge watch out, and I think that would be the one that I'd throw out there.
Yeah, I would only add, Liz, if you look at a track record of mergers and acquisitions from various industries, most of them do not live up to the expectations they had when they did the acquisition and did the merger. And so we're just being super thoughtful, super careful. How does this impact the stakeholder and, of course, shareholders down the line? But we're also being very patient. And so you mentioned 18 months for Tom and some others. We just want to make sure our franchisees do not feel the disruption, as Dave mentioned, and have everything they need and only getting better as the integration takes shape. So, to go back to our cultural alignment, our shared purpose, which is why our name is so fitting. At the end of the day, we kind of selflessly serve our consumers and franchisees around the world. And if we keep that organizational mindset, we're going to do fine.
And I agree with everything DL and Chuck said, but I will kind of give one more of an aggressive addition to it. As we do get through our own integration, and again, we are the largest health and wellness platform in the world, we need to make sure that things are done just right. I could see us adding additional brands into our family down the road. And so with this work we're doing on building this platform and being so thoughtful about it, that does open the door down the road for other potential brands to join the Purpose Brands family.
Liz, I think it's worth mentioning that we both have the same minority private equity investor. We took on a private equity company in 2014, Roark Capital, based out of Atlanta. They're arguably one of the best private equity firms in franchising. And 2 years later, they made the same type of investment in Orange Theory Fitness. And they are patient investors. They play the long game, and they understand stakeholder success, especially in franchising. At the board meeting, every topic we start with is, let's see how franchisees are performing. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And so I think that's interesting to mention, because if you pick the wrong private equity sponsor with a very short timeline, right, they start to make decisions that benefit shareholders more than stakeholders. And so I think Dave Long and the founders and management team of Orange Theory Fitness have managed the priorities as good as we have, making sure our stakeholders benefit first.
That is a really important piece to this, Chuck. And so I'm glad that you added that. And maybe if you all could expand a little bit. So you talked a little bit about putting stakeholders first. And culturally, that's been something that's been, important to DL and Chuck, for your entire brand's evolution. And maybe if you could talk just a little bit more in detail about what that means, what you think culturally as you bring, these two and other brands obviously together, and some of the approach, and maybe Tom, your approach culturally to running, and to all of this, and what that means. Chuck, I know that I've read a couple of your books and sort of your overall model on, how to lead a great culture, and you all have done that. And so maybe expand just a little bit more for those that haven't really seen that side of the business for us.
I would start off by saying that I am blessed to be part of this business where the SEB culture and the Orange Theory culture both have a common focus on delivering health to members worldwide. That's why people want to work here. It's not a job, it's a calling. And people want to contribute to global health and wellness. And when you have that as your foundation, things get a lot easier because you're all going for the same purpose overall. And so it's really a matter of strengthening and enhancing that focus across our family now and making sure that we do have that common culture, not disrupted as we do go through some integration points overall. And so that focus on the member drives everything that we do. Now we layer onto that a real focus on our customer, the franchisee. If we take care of that end member, the franchisee is going to be happy. And just like Chuck said, if we take care of the end member and the franchisee, the stakeholders, the shareholders, they're going to be taken care of as well. But through years and years of cultural work, Chuck and DL and the teams here have built a culture where we are already rowing in the same direction. DL, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think agree with everything you said, and I would just add something unique. Purpose Brands is a new entity, and you have legacy employees that were focused on one or multiple brands before. And so, we're doing a lot to how we communicate both through the franchise network across brands, but also the internal teams of Purpose Brands. And something that we're doing coming up this month, Ellen Latham, co-founder of Orange Theory, she's going up to the North Campus, which has primarily been SEB legacy, and talking about Orange Theory and getting, deeper education on the Orange Theory brand and building more excitement around that. And then the week after, Stacey Anderson, the Anytime Fitness brand president's coming down to the South Campus in Boca, talking about Anytime, to a predominantly kind of Orange Theory legacy team that are now in the middle of kind of merging together. And so I think being really intentional around creating excitement across all the brands in the portfolio, where they're unique, where there's all the commonalities. We talked, there's so much overlap in how we want to drive results for the members and the franchisees. But I think being really intentional about that and maintaining that, and that will be a part of how we build up the culture of now a brand new company with multiple brands across it.
Yeah, and I'll just add, Dave, that I think that, those are pretty amazing brand ambassadors that you all have. So, people first, and that's going to be awesome. Sorry, Chuck, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, obviously, I'm quite proud of our culture that radiates not just with our employees, but to our franchisees and members around the world. But man, I recently, a few months ago, went to the Orange Theory annual convention, and the passion and purpose were off the charts. Members, coaches, franchisees, literally bleeding orange, could not have been more impressed. And so I just think there's, again, that common shared purpose where people love what they do. They on Sunday nights they're looking forward to Monday mornings to going into work or going in to operate their franchise. This is not just a return on investment for a lot of people. It's a lifestyle. It's something they believe in. We literally have won the hearts and minds of our employees, franchisees, and members. And so super impressed. And we have, our cultures are far more in common than they are different. So
yeah, I had a chance to go to Discovery Day 2 weeks ago for new potential franchisees from an Anytime Fitness standpoint up in Woodbury. And then this morning we had new franchisee training here. I'm down in Boca for Orange Theory. And the stories they tell are similar about the impact that fitness had on them personally and how it turned their lives around. And this morning I got to hear stories about like a husband-wife where they actually used, when they were just members, an Orange Theory class to do the proposal. They had kind of had it all organized, and all of the members in the studio knew that was going to happen at the end. So during the stretch down at the end, that's when he proposed. And these brands are parts of people's lives. And again, the people who work here, we know we're fortunate to be part of that.
What a cool massive bonus. We get a South Campus in Boca, and we get a North Campus in Minneapolis. So summer times in Minnesota, winter times in Florida. Our employees love it. Our board meetings are better. So,
That's great. And I'll just say, even from my bubble in Washington, D.C., and the people I typically deal with, lawmakers and decision makers and influencers, I hear these stories from them about what these brands mean to them personally. And I've seen sort of their physical transformations and their journeys. It's real. And when you've got people that are making decisions that impact our businesses, really believing, I think that that's a big differentiator for our industry that a lot of others don't have, which leads me to sort of the next piece on advocacy. And obviously, we've got a lot of work to do with an industry to protect and promote it. And those things are different tracks, and we're working really hard on that at the HFA. But I'd love your thoughts and reactions on how we might be able to work together to really protect and promote this industry altogether.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to give kudos to Chuck and Dave Mortensen, who have been two of probably the leading advocates for health and fitness, both before the pandemic, through the pandemic, when we needed so much of that. And so I think part of, frontline conversations as this merger happened was being able to bring this group together and strategically figure out. We got multiple founders. We have Tom in the mix now. We have very powerful brand presidents. We have a new one in Lauren Cody that just started to oversee Orange Theory. We're literally have a kind of a massive playbook and spreadsheet being built out. How are we going to work together and deploy and weaponize all the leaders to really move this needle forward? And of course, partner with great organizations like HFA. Obviously, we do a lot of work with IFA as well. So I think now, January, February, we're literally getting organized to how do we move it forward. There's things that we've been doing, but we believe we can do more. And so this is super timely just to talk through, how we're going to we really want to be, kind of lead the way with this and front and center, because as you know better than anybody, the US and the world needs it.
Yeah, and I'll just add JJ Cregan, a longtime leader who's currently at OTF, serves on the HFA board. Stacy Anderson, our president, also served there as well. I served there years ago. So we are deeply in love with this industry, and it is our job to protect and promote it by collaborating together, by doing some fundraising together. And look, regardless of political beliefs, I think everyone in the industry is excited because the time is now. We've never had a better opportunity here, this pocket, this window, to maybe create some healthier policies that will benefit this life enriching industry. And so could not be more excited. And Dave Long and myself and Dave Mortensen, because Tom has to go to work every day, we get to spend a little bit more time now on some other projects. And some of those other projects are going to be how can we help protect and promote both the fitness industry and the franchise industry globally.
Yeah, I mean, that's music to my ears. That Chuck, you and I have walked the halls of Congress together, and just more and more of that to come. Even the HFA has just opened an office in Washington, D.C., a block away from the White House. And we're already having conversations with the White House, potential HHS secretary. I couldn't agree with you more that we have built a really strong foundation for a long time, but now really is our time to really be having these conversations and making policies that impact us. And even just last week, we had the potential incoming HHS secretary finally say, yes, fitness is essential. So we're working now. That didn't just happen. There's some work that goes into making sure that that question even gets asked. But point being is we're excited to represent and to be in this sort of arm in arm together.
Well, and Liz, let me just kudos to you and the HFA team. You've been through a lot of change here over the last 3-4 years with relocation, renaming, new team structure. And for those of you listening who have maybe not done as much lobbying, it is some intense, grueling, long-term work that you just have to keep in front of these policymakers. And so kudos to you and the team for leading the charge here for the industry.
Thank you, Chuck. Yeah, and an important piece of that is I'll just make a plug for our fly-in. We do a fly-in where we ask people to fly into Washington, D.C. and then go on Capitol Hill with us. And if you've never done it, it's hard work, but we make sure that everybody is comfortable and informed and that you've got sort of a ringleader with you. So, because one of the things that we think is really important is bringing people from the real world, all of your businesses that are running things and seeing things in real life, in real time, and to tell our policymakers and decision makers about how it impacts them. Because sometimes, if people aren't putting the dots together, then the narrative gets created without, an informed decision sometimes. So think about joining us in May for our fly-in here in Washington, D.C. So to that point, are there any other advocacy goals that Purpose Brands has that maybe HFA or others can help, or opportunities where you think we need to coalesce the industry and bring people more together to promote? Because we're the convener. We obviously have a huge show coming up in Las Vegas, and we will all be convening together there and having, in fact, a global advocacy summit to talk about not only what are the challenges we have in the US, but challenges around the world, and things look very different. But DL, I think, as you said, it's important for us to watch what America does, because I think so much of that informs, what other countries do around the world. But I'd love to sort of get any feelings on if there's other areas where we might be able to work together.
I think, as you know, we have brought together the International Franchise Association with HFA. You work quite closely with Matt Haller, the president there. And if you think about franchising, it's really a broad network of primarily small business owners. And so our industry, the fitness industry, even if you're not a franchise, you are generally a small business owner. So I think we're trying to keep an eye on policies that may impact small business owners, franchise or not, to help them run their business more effectively without too much burdensome regulation from the government. So I think it's another area we're trying to keep our eye on.
Yeah, what I'll just say to that is something that I've seen that's really interesting is we have some education to do there, because while you are completely right that these are small business owners, I think sometimes lawmakers hear of the brands and they know how big the brand is, but that doesn't necessarily translate for how it's working operationally. And so there is some education that we need to continue to do. And even right now, after this election, 60% of Congress that's here are all new. They're all brand new. So even if we did all this work, 2 years ago, we've got to keep doing it over and over again, unfortunately. But that's what you talk about, the long-term game. And that's what, I think we've all been working hard to do.
What is it, like 60 or 70% of our industry is still made up of what I'd call non-big brands, right? Small regional operators. Yeah. And so when they're listening to this right now, they're thinking, oh, we'll let the big guys take care of the policy stuff. Like, I can't afford to be engaged. But what really matters is local grassroots engagement from one club owner, or if you own 2 or 3 locally, with your policymakers, And so we just need everyone to get more engaged, to understand the issues. And Liz, when you and I made these visits, it is shocking just how much policymakers don't know about health, wellness, or small businesses around the world. And so it's our job to educate them, inform them, engage them, share stories locally, and to help influence their policies.
Yeah, and I mean, an interesting fact, if you looked at Anytime Fitness and Orange Theory, just the US, those 2 brands, it's 2,000 unique franchise owners, 2,000. And so, a bigger group to kind of corral, but also a lot of enthusiasm. So I think a lot of our efforts is then how do we magnify the communications about all this to that franchise network, and then figure out what are the ways that they can get involved and how do we activate them, because it's a powerful force when we get them rowing in the same direction. But they are truly small business owners. They own an average of 3 or 4 gyms or studios.
Right. But they're employers, they're paying taxes, they're trying to make enough profit to do things like pave their driveways and replace their roofs, and the whole economy is what our guys are doing on the front lines. And so it's our job to help. And just to your point, Chuck, that people need to get involved. We're here to help. And this is just my unsolicited commercial. Like, if you need help, we are here, and we know all the right people to call. And if you're opening a new facility, are you inviting your mayor? Are you inviting your governor? Are you inviting your local rep to do a ribbon cutting? Are you inviting them to walk around and meet your employees, to walk around and see firsthand how your businesses are changing lives in real time right now, right? So I think that it's little stuff like that we think is a no-brainer, but it can have long-term really positive consequences if we really start engaging these decision makers at that level.
Well, we saw that through COVID. Local advocacy worked as we were re-entering in a post-COVID world, like the policies were put in place were shaped by state associations or associations around the world when they were talking to policymakers, influencing how we kind of re-entered the world post-COVID. So it works. If you are a small operator, I mean, if you can't afford a big check, that's fine. I mean, sometimes just a phone call, emails, or just your engagement matters.
So with that in closing, I mean, this has been really exciting, really insightful. I'm excited about the future. I know you all are as well. Is there anything that maybe we didn't touch on? Anything else that maybe in closing that you would like to add about sort of the future and being together and just what a great company culture this is going to be and how intentional you're being on things is something that's really come across to me as well. So maybe just in closing, I'll start with you, DL, just to say, and then Chuck, and then let's finish with Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I think, both Chuck and I are excited to go into a little bit more of a support role and do these things like these fly-ins. And I think for many years, we've balanced both that with the day-to-day grind, but, we're handing the baton to Tom. He's doing a great job. He's got a great team. And I think things like this is what we're excited about going forward. How are we raising awareness for health and wellness, obviously across the US, but also globally, and where are the areas that we can strategically do that with partners like you. So I think, going forward, obviously we're going to be rooting for all our brands and our franchisees and our members, but I think all of that is kind of how we're looking forward as we go into 2025.
I love it. And I think I might have seen maybe on LinkedIn that you literally handed Tom a baton. I love it. So that was great. Okay.
Yes. I'll just add, look, there's never been a better time to be a fitness consumer, and it's only going to get better. So if you're a consumer today, I mean, whether you want to join a club locally that is low price or offers everything or specialized into a certain modality, you can find something online. There's just never, ever been a better time to be a fitness consumer. And it's only going to get better, right? I mean, there are tremendous tailwinds in this industry. I love all the discussions around longevity and health span and, strength training and functional training, all those things. And so I think the narrative around our industry continues to get better, which is good for all of us as club owners. And so whether you own one club or 100 clubs or you're a franchise or not, I mean, if you just execute locally, I think everyone's got a great chance to win. And I've never been more enthusiastic about the next 10 years for this industry, for consumer growth. We're all getting better at being operators. The narrative's changing. And then if we can work together to shape policy, right? Because at the end of the day, the best cure for healthcare costs are healthier people around the world. And so if we can, make a dent in some healthier policies, that's going to bring more consumers to the marketplace, and all of us would be more successful, happy, and we'll have a legacy to live on.
I think that was a fabulous summary. And I just echo a lot of the points that, we from a purpose brand standpoint, we want to drive growth, and we want to drive growth by helping more members across the world, providing that better result, which means that they will come back more and more and they will live healthier lives. And through doing that, we also want to make sure that we are reaching out to brand new franchisees and prospective franchisees across the world, across our brands, so we can, again, contribute more to the overall global health and wellness that we have going on. So fabulous tailwinds in the industry, and we think we can do a lot of good.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. This was really fun. Thank you for joining me out of your very busy schedules. And I look forward to maybe, yes, DL and Chuck having slightly less busy schedules, moving forward. And this has just been great. So best of luck. Congratulations. And be well, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Liz. It was great. Take care.